In a world filled with ghouls, mutants, vault dwellers, and this guy, Jonathan Nolan and the team behind Fallout weave us a wasteland story that's anything but barren. Fallout is spectacular. Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy employ their Westworld musings of control, chaos, comfort, desire, and self-discovery to great effect in this Sergio Leone-inspired maze through human depravity. It's got vicious action, stunning set pieces, complex characters. It's simply put, my new obsession and my favorite video game adaptation thus far. How does it succeed where countless other video game adaptations fail? Not only that, but even stacked up against some of the best in the genre, how does it improve and perfect the art of video game adaptations? To answer that, let's take you back to Fallout. The video game that started it all was released in 1997 by Interplay Productions for the enjoyment of PC role-playing gamers. The game garnered a sequel, releasing the following year, but it wasn't until nearly 10 years later, when the rights to the series were acquired by Bethesda Softworks, that Fallout 3 took the gaming world by storm. For me, well, let's just say my relationship with Fallout hasn't been the greatest. And to be honest, I think my introduction to Fallout, compounded by my ambivalence towards the Elder Scrolls games, sort of cemented the fact that the vast open world RPGs like this simply weren't for me. But what hadn't left me was the world, the lore. It just had such an infectious aesthetic. It was this weird sort of thing where I was drawn to Fallout as a concept, but not the games themselves. So naturally, an adaptation, be it a movie or a television show, was something I had always wanted to see. And when the showrunners of my favorite show of all time, Westworld, were tasked with finally bringing the game to the small screen, I mean, it was like fucking Christmas. Yes, please, dear God. Set in the near future, Fallout finds its charm in combining a post-apocalyptic world with all the retro-futurism, cookie-cutter capitalism, and atomic punk influence of the 1950s. But whereas game-to-series adaptations like The Last of Us have felt the restrictions of their narrative-driven source material, Fallout finds freedom in the sandbox it has built since 1997 for its showrunners to play in. The series breathes new life into the franchise, welcoming newcomers and longtime fans alike, and acts as a spiritual fifth installment to the 4 core games that preceded it. The genius of treating this series like a pseudo Fallout 5 is that it allows creatives like Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy to create all new characters and storylines, adding to the existing mythology, in some cases deconstructing it, free from the expectations that come with a strict one-to-one adaptation. It allows us to surrender to the story at hand, as if we were watching a friend play through the game right next to us. Throughout the series' first season, we follow the respective journeys of Lucy, a vault dweller from Vault 33, Maximus, an ambitious grunt working his way up through the Brotherhood of Steel, and Cooper, aka the Ghoul, a man whose mere existence is tied to the origin of the world's current state. The 3 protagonists represent a dynamic not too dissimilar from a Sergio Leone-style Western, as I kind of alluded to in the intro, with each taking on the positions of, you guessed it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, the whole show feels like nuclear cowboy land, with one of the series' protagonists being, an actual cowboy. But beyond that, the way these characters are introduced, and even paired with the title cards introducing said characters, feels very much inspired from the Man with the No Name trilogy, specifically The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And what's great about this approach is that it's not only drawing upon cinema references, but it's also representing the different play styles players of the games find themselves adopting along their own journeys. So let's talk about them individually and discuss how spreading out the narrative workload serves this inaugural season in the best way possible.
Looking to stock your Fallout shelter with only the best for your time underground? Then you've just got to add Harry's Shave and Suds bundle to your list. Since 2013, Harry's has been providing hairy folks in need with affordable products to keep you looking crisp and clean for all your shelter mates. What's this, you say? You didn't know that Harry's made more than just razors? Then get ready to have your beard blown right off your face, my friend, because Harry's Shave and Suds bundle comes with loads of goodies to ensure that you're not the first to get eaten when food runs out. including 1 orange Truman handle with 2 blades, an 8-count of extra blades, 1 free travel-size body wash, and 1 free travel-size exfoliating face wash. Hooey, that's a whole lot of Harry's. The Shave and Suds bundle allows you to sample some of the many products that Harry's has been offering for that scruffy body of yours, now at 18% off for only $27. That's right, 27 smackaroonies. Well, how do you access this amazing deal, you ask? Why, you can do so from the comfort of your bunker, provided you installed Wi-Fi in that bad boy. Just follow the link in the description for this here video, and in the meantime, pick up one of their products in your local convenience store. It's that simple. Go get your Harry's today, lads. Your bunker mates will thank you tomorrow.
Let's start with Lucy, the Good, arguably our foremost protagonist out of the trio. Lucy, played brilliantly by Ella Purnell, is, as we said previously, a vault dweller and fills the space that fans of the games have been accustomed to as each store's titular playable character. Lucy's innocence and sense of honor shine as a bright spot as she travels through a world clouded in corruption and darkness. She serves as the audience surrogate for learning about the world, a feature that makes the show particularly accessible to newcomers interested in learning about the world of Fallout right along with her. Through Lucy, we get a pretty clear vision of what life has been like for those families lucky enough to claim a space in one of Vault-Tech's many underground safe havens since the first nukes dropped in 2077. Now, before anyone comes for me in the comments, yes, I know full well that being a vault dweller didn't necessarily mean that their existence claimed amnesty from the absolute fucked up state of the world, but in Lucy's case at least, it did mean a rather cushy upbringing compared to those left to fend for themselves on the surface. Lucy, like it or not, comes from a place of privilege, a stance only reinforced by her family's backstory, which we learn by the time Season 1 hits its climax. By the end of Episode 8, we've learned that not only is Lucy's father not the saint she believed him to be, but also that he's a surviving Vault-Tech employee, one of many that secured their place in the vaults and preserved their bodies in hopes to be amongst the elite when it was time to rise from the ground as the controlling party in the New World Order. Furthermore, we learn that those that were lucky enough to claim a space in one of over 100 vaults weren't so much lucky as they were just, well, rich. Lucy isn't privy to any of this knowledge. She's basically a kid who's grown up with only one worldview her entire life. But the advantages and luxury she's been afforded in a world with very little to spare do ultimately allow her ideals to develop in a safe-ish environment. She's been raised with civilized ideals and expects the world to respond accordingly. The world's refusal to do so leads to her eye-opening character arc throughout the show's 8-episode run. Lucy represents the innocence of a child entering adulthood, or really someone who's just kind of ignorant and sheltered from the way the world actually is. Her naive idealism parallels the hopefulness of a young adult leaving the home they grew up in and experiencing the horrors of the world for the very first time. We, as human beings and as a mass consumer audience, have always been fascinated with watching a good person fall toward darkness. Lucy feeds that craving of ours to see a moral person as they start to make exceptions for their own rules. After all, as the show itself says in episode 3,
the audience, Coop, yeah? They already know you're a good man. They want to see that even a good man as yourself can be driven so far.
In many ways, Lucy is forced to conform to the world's status quo. But perhaps what makes her such a great protagonist is her willingness to bend in order to achieve her goal, existing concurrently with her resilience to never bend so far as to break who she is. At least, not as of yet. When we first meet Lucy, we find her dating in an unorthodox setting. As Lucy's journey continues, she's forced to make harder and harder decisions, each testing her own limits and moral code. Lucy's growth by the end of Season 1 is unparalleled, and the writers find perfect ways of showing how the wasteland changes her. A perfect example of this comes at the end of Episode 4, where two of Lucy's character traits are shown existing together instead of working against each other. Serving as a great midpoint for the season, by the end of Episode 4, Lucy has made the conscious choice to switch from her trusty yet fairly useless tranq gun to wielding an actual firearm. At the same time, she makes the decision to spare the life of the man who took her hostage and has single-handedly made her mission a living hell so far. This is what makes Lucy such a great protagonist. She's a flawed character that's willing to learn about the world around her, but never naive enough to let it drag her down to its level. She literally and figuratively sticks to her guns.
Golden rule, motherfucker.
And one of the things that I loved early on about Lucy's journey was how it kind of posed the idea that maybe you can make it through this world, this depraved wasteland where there are no rules, following a set of rules by leading with kindness and compassion above all else. Lucy's journey is one from innocence and ignorance to someone with a firmer grasp on the world around her. And I think the key here is that the show makes a point to comment on privilege and capitalism and how that's warped Lucy's perception of the world. She's waking up to the reality of what America really is. The American dream, the idyllic version the Vault Dwellers have been taught, isn't how the real world works. The dream has failed. It's a fantasy designed to keep the rich richer and the poor poorer, wrapped up in cozy, feel-good iconography that was so present throughout the 50s. I think Lucy is inherently kind-hearted. The show clearly depicts this, and she's naive to a fault, but it also helps her get what she wants. She puts kindness into the world, and it's reciprocated. And what's great about this awakening for Lucy is she's not only waking up to the cruelty of the world around her, but her role, the Vault Dweller's role, in perpetuating that cruelty instead of actually using her privilege to do some good. Fallout does such an excellent job of exploring the chasm between the elite and the rest of the world. Privileged folks locked away who don't have a clue how the real world works. Those are the Vault Dwellers. For as much as this is a post-apocalyptic tale, it's also one of ignorance and privilege and how classism creates more of a divide. People are fed fake propaganda like "Make America Great Again," but that's just a slogan to maintain privilege and power. It's only the elite that clings to privilege and rules because it's what keeps them in power. Lucy isn't the problem per se, but she can be part of the solution. Now, let's talk about the man, or at least the shell of one, that diametrically opposes Lucy's innocent worldview. While Lucy's storyline drives most of the plot forward in the present year of 2296, the Ghoul's backstory ties into the very roots of the world that Vault Tech has created. Cooper Howard, aka the Ghoul, played by the incredible Walton Goggins, my god, dude is killing it, is the audience's window into the state of the world before the bombs dropped in 2077. Howard, a veritable Clint Eastwood of the late 21st century, if you will, offers us an intimate look at the culture of his time, a commercialized, retro-futuristic world where anything and everything is a product to be sold, on top of showing us the world as it stands right up to and including the first bombs to fall on Los Angeles. God, this shot is so fucking beautiful. What a way to open this show. And then he escapes on a goddamn horse. It's so fucking cool. Cooper Howard is the best. Man, what a way to really grab viewers by the whatever. I digress. Anyways, Coop also provides context on the altered history/future that the world of Fallout exists in prior to the end of the world. We get tidbits of lore, such as the Alaskan War, where Cooper actually served in the army and wore the very first version of the T-60 model suits that have been a staple of the wasteland by the time in which our main story is set. Cooper's work as a public icon allows us to see the social and, at times, political side of the 2070s. But his wife, Barb, shows us an intimate look into the inner workings of Vault Tech and their role in creating this rad, ravaged world. It's not hard to identify that Fallout, like most post-apocalyptic stories, is a cautionary tale, but the series takes its criticism of unmonitored capitalism to the next level with its Episode 8 reveal. Cooper's curiosity gets the best of him as he's prompted by a young Moldaver to spy on his wife in order to learn the truth behind Vault Tech's intentions. It's here, in the last episode of the season, that we learn, as Cooper does, that Vault Tech has decided to drop the first bombs on purpose in order to secure their investors' contributions towards building the vaults. After all,
there's a lot of money
in selling the end of the world.
Fallout's commentary on the dangers of large-stage capitalism is brilliantly told through the eyes of Cooper, a man who's just about as American as they come, fought for his country, really into cowboy shit, and just wants to retire and buy a ranch where he lives off the land. This guy could probably be your dad. Throughout the season, we watch as Howard's faith in capitalism and the American way slowly starts to waver and crumble. The facade of the American dream collapses as he becomes a cog in the machine, witnessing firsthand the danger of controlling monopolies. Which, quick side note, is it not at least just a little teensy-weensy bit ironic that the show with a message about criticizing the power of monopolies is hosted on Amazon? If any company were to be the real-life Vault-Tech, it's this one. Anyway, the decision to tell it through a man who fully believes in Americana, the morals, principles, patriotism that the country supposedly stands for, only to pull back the glamorous layer to reveal the real machinations, is incredibly powerful. It helps solidify the critique far more than had he started out as someone who was already questioning the status quo.
I'm not a communist, Mr. Howard. That's just a dirty word they use to describe people who aren't insane.
Cooper's choice to hear out those that didn't simply submit to the lie that is the American dream is the first step in his transformation from a man who believed in good people to one who believes there are none. Cooper Howard, who is revealed to be the original Vault-Tech mascot, the OG Vault Boy, did his part in blindly selling the apocalypse, and as a result, is forced to transform, as the world does, into something much, much uglier. In the words of another Jonathan Nolan project,
you either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
By the time Lucy leaves Vault 33 for the first time, Cooper Howard has become something else entirely: the Ghoul. For over 200 years, the Ghoul has wandered the wasteland, surviving off of bounty hunting and drugs in a world that's been broken down into the most basic form of capitalism, distilled down to its most barbaric roots. Instead of trying to hide behind a facade, the Ghoul is what Cooper has really always been his entire life and hadn't really come to terms with. The Ghoul's sheer drive, along with a little help from good old radiation, has kept him going all this time. He's intent on finding his family, namely, which vault they were sent to following the end of the world. It's an unfinished part of his backstory that I'm really eager to see more of in the seasons to come. But based on what we've seen of the Ghoul so far, even if he succeeds in finding them, what will be left of him by the time he does? To loosely quote another Jonathan Nolan project.
You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it.
He doesn't have much of a plan, or at least that we know of yet, outside of find my family. And even if he finds his family, it'll have cost him everything. The very humanity that drove him to want to find them, lost to the cruelty of the wasteland. The Ghoul serves as a diametric opposite to Lucy. In the same way that we're drawn to Lucy's innocence being corrupted by the world around her, we crave the redemption, the rehumanization, if you will, of Coop's soul. Lucy and the Ghoul clash in virtually every way, but their respective characters draw the other toward each other like a pair of wayward magnets. The Ghoul tells Lucy that he's exactly what she'll become after the wasteland has chewed her up and spit her out.
Oh, I'm you, sweetie. You just give it a little time.
And to some extent, he's right. I mean, in a literal sense, he's the direct product of time and radiation tag teaming the disintegration of a human body. But in a less physical sense, he also represents the mental state of a person pushing back against an unrelenting reality in the pursuit of their mission. The Ghoul is Lucy's future. Just give it time. Inversely, Lucy represents the Ghoul's past, his humanity. She represents the shreds of Cooper Howard still left inside of him. Together, they'll draw each other to a moral center, one giving her humanity just enough to survive, and the other regaining it enough so as to not lose himself completely. And while we're talking about these morally complex characters and how confused and conflicted they feel, let's dive into our final protagonist. While Fallout does a relatively great job of giving each of its main characters an equal amount of spotlight, if there were one that took just an ever so slight backseat this season, It's Maximus. Now, that's not to say he's not given enough time to grow. In fact, Maximus's journey this season and the position we find him in by the end of it is arguably the most intriguing arc of the show's three protagonists. While Lucy and the Ghoul start at opposite ends of the moral spectrum, Squire Maximus freely floats right around the middle of it. Unlike our other two protagonists, the post-nuclear surface world is the only one he's ever known. Maximus has known tragedy from a very young age and spends the remainder of his youth indoctrinated in a cult made by guys who really liked the vibe that medieval knights had going on. He's emotionally stunted, educationally limited, and spoon-fed a very narrow view of the only world he's ever known. And it all happened because they saved his life as a child. And so he grew up with this fantasy in mind that the Brotherhood of Steel were these heroes, that this jingoistic patriotism was something that should be celebrated, that he should want to be a soldier. It is genuinely endearing to see this man who's never known safety or comfort as he experiences it for the first time when he, along with Lucy, find themselves in Vault 4 in the season's 7th episode. His childlike wonder at simple luxuries that most of us who made or are watching this video have taken for granted in our lives is a moment of wholesome purity that gives us a chance to breathe from the darkness that's threaded through the rest of the show. While Lucy's character embodies innocence, Maximus is closer than her to embodying the mindset of a child. He's ignorant, finds joy in simple things, wants so badly to play the hero, and above all else, is emotionally volatile. Maximus has this inherent darkness inside of him. He's been raised in a militant cult for most of his life and been bullied by those that barely outrank him. He has the potential to go either way at pretty much any point in the story so far. For most of the show's first season, we're left wondering if he, in fact, was the perpetrator of his friend Dane's maimed foot, and the evidence serving both sides of the argument is just about equal. Even though it's eventually revealed that Dane in fact maimed themselves to get out of active duty, we can't just forget Maximus let this dude straight up die. Now granted, Michael Rappaport was totally being a dick here, but still, Maximus saw an opportunity and boy did he fucking take it.
You know, this whole crap with this cancel culture and the... Shut up!
At the core of it all, Maximus is a scared little kid. He experienced devastation at such a young age, and since then, he's been searching for a way to keep himself safe. That's what the armor represents to him. It's been ingrained in him from a young age that the Brotherhood of Steel are the good guys. And while it's maybe 10% true, they, like Max, have a skewed sense of justice and honor. Max sees through the suit, though, and identifies Knight Titus as not fit to wear it. Perhaps it's out of survival. I mean, who knows what the Brotherhood would do to him if they found out he got his knight injured, or perhaps it was this bent sense of honor that told him he could put the armor to much better use. Maximus has never known true acceptance, never, at least as far as his memory can recall, had a place to call home. He's perhaps the least adjusted character out of the main three. While Maximus still holds knowledge of the wastelands, his people skills and sense of honor is obscured at best. The position of power, of genuine respect from his peers that he finds himself by the season's end, puts him in a pivotal role in the series to come, and I can't wait to see which path he ultimately ends up going down. What's also great about Maximus and the way the Brotherhood of Steel are depicted here is that there is this kind of jingoistic commentary going on here about these soldiers who are being sent out to retrieve items as trivial as a toaster. And there's this almost like self-realization from someone like Knight Titus, where he's like, I'm just going out here and I'm fucking collecting relics, like this is stupid, and they just see the suit of armor as a means for survival. Max definitely sees that, but he also kind of wants to give it meaning because that's what he saw when he was a kid. Fallout as a fledgling series, even without the support of its pre-existing fanbase, is a fantastically pointed, wonderfully funny, and deeply thought-provoking season of television, and I should expect nothing less from the geniuses that brought us Westworld. It has all the advantages of exploring and expanding upon a pre-established open world, and utilizes that leg up on other video game adaptations by delivering an absolute home run of a script based in said world. Fallout gives us no shortage of characters to root for, characters that we're fascinated by and want to see either break bad or turn good or whatever the hell Maximus is doing. And we see their moral compass and the complexity and all that. It's so well realized. It serves its longtime fans well while welcoming newcomers with new arms, asking each and every viewer that finds themselves watching it the same questions. How long are we willing to let the greedy run the world? And are we as a society willing to do something about it before it's too late? Pretty powerful stuff. But I know a lot of people like to play these games to just go around the wasteland, shoot stuff, and yeah, I mean, that's fun too, and it's great to watch this. Anyways, loved it.